Chapter 2372. She was afraid of the young lady in front of her. He was fearful for no reason. Miao Rongrong suppressed the restlessness and uneasiness in her heart, trying hard to make herself look calmer. She took a deep breath and met Yi Qing Luo's gaze with a cold expression. What you fed me earlier was the antidote. It was no wonder that the stench from earlier had filled his nose. Her spirit and consciousness had returned. Even her strength had gradually returned to her body. It was like the final radiance of a setting sun. This thought made Miao Rongrong's heart tremble. The expression on her face turned colder. Who are you? Why did you do it to little prince, and even implicate me? Do you know who I am? What I fed you is not the antidote. Yi Qing Luo answered Miao Rongrong's first question in a neither fast nor slow manner. Following that, she answered the next question leisurely. As for me, I am naturally the one who came to make a deal with you. As for me, I did not implicate you, but little prince was implicated by you. Of course I know who you are, otherwise I wouldn't have come to look for you. This leisurely voice sounded extremely lazy. One by one, the expression on Miao Rongrong's face cracked bit by bit. The raging anger spread from the bottom of her heart. Her face was twisted, and she clenched the bedding under her into a ball of wrinkles in an extremely terrifying manner. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows, admiring Miao Rongrong's frenzied look. She shook her head in disappointment. What happened to the promised eldest Miss Miao, the #1 Gu master? Her endurance was only at this level? Just a few words and she was forced to lose control? Yi Qing Luo scoffed lightly, propped one hand on the side of the bed, gazing at Miao Rongrong with a smile yet not a smile. Eldest Miss Miao, the medicine I fed you can at most ease you for 4 hours. After that, you will return to the state just now. What are you trying to do? Miao Rongrong thought of that torturous feeling earlier, and her body couldn't help but tremble. You cure me, I will cure you. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly, smiling faintly. Miao Rongrong's pupils enlarged. Cure? She stood up abruptly. He lowered his head and looked at the smiling girl sitting by the bed. She couldn't find any traces of goo worms on the young girl's body. Yes, it's a very complicated kind of venom, perhaps, you can't cure it. Yi Qing Luo allowed Miao Rongrong to size her up. I can't solve it. Miao Rongrong frowned. Her greatest pride was being the eldest daughter of the Miao tribe leader, the eldest daughter of the Miao tribe. He had an extremely powerful voodoo talent. He was the most popular goo master in the Miao village. This young girl dared to doubt that she could not cure the goo. However, Miao Rongrong suppressed her anger and said with a sullen face, since I can't solve it, you still want to scheme against me? If you can't solve it, you will be buried with me. Yi Qing Luo smiled calmly. Miao Rongrong was speechless. She wanted to curse out loud. Was she King crazy? All in all, this deal, are you going to do it or not? Yi Qing Luo stood up slowly, her posture elegant as she brushed the hair by the side of her face. Her appearance was elegant and noble to the extreme. Miao Rongrong's 5 fingers were about to break the flesh of her palm. She suppressed her anger, and between her brows, she said, do it. No matter what, she didn't want to experience that kind of pain again. That kind of pain was even more painful than the feeling of a goo worm in her body. Yi Qing Luo smiled satisfactorily. Her smile was extremely arrogant and noble, as though it was above Miao Rongrong's head. Chapter 2373. That attitude, that tone. It felt like he was talking to a pet. Miao Rongrong's pale face gradually twisted into a sinister expression. Since I've promised you, can you cure me of the poison now? I can't. Yi Qing Luo straightforwardly rejected. It's only fair to hand over the money in a transaction. You should at least cure me of the goo poison before I cure you of the poison in your body, isn't that so? My ass. Miao Rongrong was so angry that her whole body trembled. She totally didn't know Yi Qing Luo and had no grudges with her. Yi Qing Luo had poisoned her out of the blue. How could he talk to her about fairness now? Was he teasing her? As though she had seen through Miao Rongrong's thoughts, Yiqing Luo nodded smilingly, yes. Miao Rongrong almost choked on her anger. She stared at the elegant face in front of her. That confident smile seemed to be laughing at her wretched state. The killing intent in Miao Rongrong's eyes could not be concealed at all. Yiqing Luo saw it clearly. However, he didn't care about this at all. She didn't care about Miao Rongrong's attitude towards her. In any case, if Miao Rongrong wanted to live, she had to be obedient. Then prepare yourself and leave the northern continent with me. After the goo is cured, I will let you go. Yiqing Luo didn't waste any more time talking nonsense with her as she directly requested. Leave? Miao Rongrong abruptly raised her head. I won't leave the northern wave continent. At the very least, he couldn't leave at this critical juncture. Who was this girl in front of her? What was her identity? What was her purpose in asking her to cure the goo? She didn't know any of this. Just like that, he followed her and left the northern wave continent, leaving the territory that belonged to her. If this girl really wanted to kill her, what room did she have to resist? But it's not up to you to choose now. Yiqing Luo tilted her head awkwardly, her charming eyes blinked, bright and innocent. Now, you're the one begging me. You. Miao Rongrong's chest felt stuffy, and even breathing became difficult. B*TCH. She was indeed a slut. No matter what he did, he was so cheap. Miao Rongrong was furious. She didn't want to die. He did not want to die in that kind of extreme pain. Suddenly, Miao Rongrong's eyes darkened. Didn't War King go to the Miao tribe to invite her father out of the village? As long as her father came, the poison in her body would definitely be cured. Furthermore, father would definitely subdue this slut. As long as he could delay the little slut, everything would be over once his father arrived. Miao Rongrong's eyes flickered, and she said, I can leave the northern wave continent with you, but not now. Yiqing Luo raised her brows as her eyes narrowed slightly. Before she could say anything, Miao Rongrong continued, I can't leave the northern wave continent for at least 2 months. Yiqing Luo's half-squinted eyes reflected a sharp glint. Miao Rongrong suppressed the fear in her heart and met her gaze. She tried her best to calm her emotions and said, the selection for the Holy Maiden is in 2 months. All my efforts are for the sake of becoming the Holy Maiden. So, no matter what, before the Saintess candidate is decided, I will never leave. As she spoke, her hands under the bedding clenched tightly. The pain from her fingernails cutting into her skin made her slightly trembling voice become much more normal. The Holy Maiden selection. Miao Rongrong was not lying. Chapter 2374. But she didn't have much patience to wait for Miao Rongrong for 2 months. Moreover, if Miao Rongrong became the sacred maiden, would she still listen to her obediently? Yiqing Luo frowned slightly and was about to open her mouth. Miao Rongrong had already sat up straight and quickly spoke first. If I lose the qualification to become the sacred maiden, then I'd rather die. If you force me to leave the North Continent now, then kill me now. Between her brows, there was an unquestionable firmness. You specifically came to the Northern Wave Continent and set up one scheme after another. You wanted me to cure you of the parasite. Presumably, you also know that in the entire Miaogu clan, besides me, no one can cure you of the parasite. She smiled, her eyes filled with confidence. I have confidence that there is no one else in the Miaogu family who can help you. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips. It wasn't that she couldn't tell Miao Rongrong's persistence towards the sacred maiden position. Miao Rongrong had already cooperated with people from the upper realm for the sacred maiden position. That was enough to represent that Miao Rongrong was determined to get the sacred maiden position. She was forcing Miao Rongrong to leave now. There was a possibility that Miao Rongrong would really go all out with her. Other than Miao Rongrong, she really couldn't find anyone else. Someone who could go with her to the West Continent. Don't talk nonsense like bringing the Miao clan leader to the West Continent. Miao Gu family. Miao Gu village. If she really kidnapped their clan leader to the West Continent, then she could forget about peace forever. Most importantly, towards Gu worms, she didn't know much. If she angered the Miao people, one by one, they would plant Gu worms on her, casting Gu spells or something. She would be in big trouble. Yi Qing Luo pondered for a moment and fished out a medicine bottle from the profound phoenix ring. 2 months. If you want to play any tricks, I can guarantee you that the pain you're going to suffer will not only be as severe as what you just suffered. She shook the medicine bottle. The sound of the pills colliding was extremely crisp. She poured out 1 pill and passed it to Miao Rongrong. I will send you 1 pill every day to suppress the poison, if... Little beauty. Suddenly, the tightly shut door was kicked open. She saw a lump of fat, speedily rushing into the room. Little beauty, it's really you. Why are you here? Are you here to look for me? That person was Yuan Kuang. These past few days, Yuan Kuang's body had deteriorated after going berserk. He had been nursing his body. Today, he heard that the young lady of the Miao family, who had cured him of the poison, was a guest at the War King's mansion. Yuan Kuang had heard that this Miss Miao was extremely beautiful. Thus, he hurried over without stopping to rest. But he had never expected that he would actually see the little beauty that he had been thinking about day and night. That lump of fat was running quickly. The whole room was shaking. The furnishings in the room were also trembling non-stop. Yi Qing Luo knitted her brows. Why did this little wimp also come? Moreover, what was with this enthusiastic attitude? She poisoned him. Not only did it turn him into a laughingstock, but it also made him lose the ability to produce offspring for the Yuan family. How could he still be so passionate about her? Wasn't he a little too ambitious? Bang! Just as Yi Qing Luo's attention was placed on Yuan Kuang, Miao Rongrong, who was sitting on the bed, suddenly stood up. She grabbed Yi Qing Luo's wrist and forcefully snatched the medicine bottle from her hand. Following that, Miao Rongrong quickly stuffed the medicine bottle into her clothes and with a leap, she rolled out of the window. Slut! Just you wait. Do you think that only you know how to poison? Miao Rongrong's shrill voice came along with the wind. By the time Yi Qing Luo walked to the window. Chapter 2375. Yi Qing Luo lowered her eyes and took a look at the pill in her hand. She clenched her fingers and crushed the pill in her palm. She placed one hand on the window and was about to turn over and chase after him. Behind him, he felt an extremely passionate aura charging towards him. She knitted her brows tightly and gave up the idea of turning over the window as she swiftly moved her body away. Bam! A heavy collision sound was heard. Yuan Kuang's fat body crashed into the window which Yi Qing Luo was standing on earlier. A body of fat was squeezed on that half-open window, looking extremely oily. Yi Qing Luo pouted her lips in disgust and couldn't be bothered with him as she turned around to leave. Little beauty. Little beauty. Yuan Kuang used all his strength and dug out his flesh from the window. While shaking his fat, he rushed towards Yi Qing Luo. Little beauty, you must be looking for me, right? I am the #1 child prodigy in Qinhua City, the #1 little duke. You deliberately disagreed with me that day just to attract my attention. Right? You poisoned me because you wanted to see if my ability was enough to satisfy you. Right? Yuan Kuang's face was filled with joy and complacency as he moved closer to Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo, could it be that the little prince's brain was damaged by the poison? Little beauty, don't worry, although there are many beauties in my backyard, but I am willing to send them away for you. Yuan Kuang's face was sincere, although you are older than me by a few years, but I don't mind. I want to marry you to be my princess. Yi Qing Luo, indeed his brain was spoiled. Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes as she avoided Yuan Kuang's outstretched hand and walked out of the room. Yuan Kuang immediately chased after her. Little beauty, my courtyard is over there, do you know the way? I will bring you over now. Shut up. Yi Qing Luo shot him an impatient glance. Yuan Kuang's face, which was filled with large chunks of fat, kept trembling. It was sparkling, although it was separated by large chunks of fat. Yiqing Luo could still see clearly the trace of fatigue in Yuan Kuang's eyes and the absent-minded look. It was obvious that Yuan Kuang's body had yet to fully recover after going berserk that time. He actually dared to chase after her? Wasn't he afraid that she would make a move on him again? However, even if she didn't do anything, Yuan Kuang would also be digging his own grave. Just from Yuan Kuang's action of running over to Miao Rongrong's courtyard, Yiqing Luo already knew Yuan Kuang's motive for coming over. He must have heard that Miao Rongrong was extremely beautiful. They wanted to come over to hunt for some asterisk. Furthermore, during this period of time, Yuan Kuang continued to live the same way as before. At night, there would probably be at least 2 women serving him. He was already at death's door, yet he was still thinking of a gentle home. Was he complaining that he was not dying fast enough, that he was not miserable enough? Yiqing Luo scoffed softly as her long and narrow eyes curled into a contemptuous cold arc. Yuan Kuang seemed as though he couldn't see Yiqing Luo's disdain and disgust. After he was hollered at by Yiqing Luo, his eyes were filled with excitement. Little beauty, I shut up. I'll shut up right now. I'll shut my mouth and bring you to my courtyard. Saying that, he held Yiqing Luo's hand. His eyes were filled with lust. A "pa" sound was heard. Yiqing Luo's hand unknowingly held a withered branch as it heavily struck the back of Yuan Kuang's hand. The back of Yuan Kuang's plump hand was imprinted with a scarlet mark. Yuan Kuang's eyes flashed with excitement. That excited glow. Chapter 2376. Damn! What a masochist. The more she tortured him, the more excited he was. From the looks of it, it was his noble status that made the people around him bow to him without the slightest bit of temper, which caused him to have this habit. Yiqing Luo quickly threw the branch in her hand to the ground, only to feel a chill. Yuan Kuang's appearance ruined her plan again. Miao Rongrong escaped and brought a bottle of antidote with her. At least for a short period of time, she had no way to control Miao Rongrong. Although, after Miao Rongrong ate the antidote, Miao Rongrong would take the initiative to look for her. But wait until then. A lot of things had already gone out of her control. What a trouble. Little beauty, Yuan Kuang, who was extremely excited, twisted his fat body. His narrow eyes curved into a line. A feeling of disgust welled up in her heart. Yiqing Luo felt her stomach churning just by looking at Yuan Kuang. But Yuan Kuang was still pestering her. She simply condensed a burst of profound energy and hit the back of Yuan Kuang's head. Who dares to be presumptuous in the Battle King's residence? Suddenly, a stern roar was heard. Immediately after, Yiqing Luo felt a powerful force coming straight at her. Yiqing Luo's hand movements paused. She quickly turned to the side and avoided the attack of profound energy. Not far away, a dark figure was approaching from afar. A palm wind that was filled with enormous dark force came crashing down. The ferocious force caused the surrounding air to spin into huge whirlpools. What a strong force! Yiqing Luo sighed in her heart and immediately dodged. Immediately, the profound chi gathered and immediately met the palm wind, chopping it down. Bang bang bang, 2 forces collided. In a split second, the vortex was torn apart and the wind was entangled. This area of the Battle King's residence was completely reduced to ruins. Sand and stones flew and gravel scattered. The airflow dispersed and the smoke and dust dispersed. 2 figures stood in front of Yiqing Luo. Standing in front was a middle-aged man who was about the same age as the Battle King. And the Battle King stood behind the man. That middle-aged man was dressed in a strange navy blue attire. It was different from ordinary people's attire. The man's upper body was covered in an extremely short navy blue robe. Around the waist, there were indecipherable patterns embroidered on it. The lower part of her body was made of cloth that looked like an apron. Underneath the cloth, she wore pants of the same color. This look made Yiqing Luo think of the minority dressing. Yiqing Luo immediately knew that middle-aged man's identity, Miao tribe leader, Miao Yixiong. He was Miao Rongrong's father. Who exactly are you? Miao Yixiong stared at Yiqing Luo in an unfriendly manner, as he was secretly shocked. The girl looked to be only 14 or 15 years old. He was actually able to dodge his attack. Moreover, he was able to exchange blows with him. Who was she? How could there be such a powerful force? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she smiled sweetly. So it's Chief Miao, are you here to look for eldest young Miss Miao? But, you're too late. Miss Miao has already escaped from the warlord's mansion. What nonsense are you spouting? When the War King heard the word escape, his expression changed drastically. In front of Miao Yixiong, he did not dare to admit that he had imprisoned Miao Rongrong. Before he left, Miao Rongrong almost breathed her last. How could she have the strength to escape? Chapter 2377. Little slut, how dare you be so arrogant in my territory? The War King's face darkened. He immediately recognized the girl in front of him as the one in the portrait. The thought of this slut daring to lay her hands on Yuan Kuang, and even caused the Yuan family to have no descendants. The battle lord's heart was filled with hatred. He looked at Miao Yixiong, gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, Chief Miao, this is the woman I told you about, the one who poisoned my son with lust. Miao Yixiong's eyes were fixed on Yiqing Luo. It was as if he wanted to see through Yiqing Luo's profound grade. But no matter how he looked, he couldn't see through the profound glow on her body. Miao Yixiong's heart skipped a beat. Generally speaking, it was impossible to see through the opponent's profound grade or even sense the opponent's profound energy. Either the opponent had some kind of divine weapon to hide their profound energy, or the opponent's strength was above him. Miao Yixiong naturally believed the former. But he was also inexplicably worried about the latter. Where is Rongrong? Miao Yixiong stared into Yiqing Luo's eyes and asked calmly. Ran away. Yiqing Luo smiled calmly, took my things and ran away. When you go back, remember to settle the bill for Miss Miao, my things are never free. Miao Yixiong was silent for a moment. His eyes scanned Yiqing Luo back and forth a few times. Finally he turned around and left. Leader Miao. The battle lord didn't expect Miao Yixiong to choose to believe Yiqing Luo's words without hesitation. Miao Yixiong paused and looked at the battle lord coldly. I will go back to confirm, if this girl is lying, I will cooperate with the battle lord and have the right to arrest her. After that, he left without looking back. The battle lord's face darkened as he clenched his fist. Little slut. You can trick Leader Miao, but I will not let you off. He moved his fingers and took out a battle axe from his space pocket. I will use your blood as a blood sacrifice for my Yuan family's descendant. He roared furiously, raised the battle axe in his hand and attacked Yiqing Luo. Descendant? Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows and repeated the word in astonishment. Then, he leaped back with ease. She was as light as a butterfly spreading its wings, floating in the air. She looked at Yuan Kuang with a smile and said in a mocking tone, so the little prince no longer has the ability to procreate. But then again, the little prince is still young. Wasting his body like this will naturally have a huge impact on certain aspects. She covered her pink lips with her slender fingers and smiled charmingly. It was clearly not a stunning face. At this moment, there was a suffocating charm to it. Yuan Kuang was first smitten by Yiqing Luo's smile. But in Yiqing Luo's words, he felt as though he was soaked in December's cold water. His entire body quivered, and his mind suddenly became clear. No ability to procreate. What do you mean? Yuan Kuang's body stiffened as he looked at Warlord in disbelief. Under Yuan Kuang's gaze, the Battle King couldn't swing his battle axe down no matter how hard he tried. He furrowed his brows and averted his gaze. Kwang, move aside. I want to kill this slut. Why does Warlord need to hide it from the little prince? After all, this kind of thing, you will find out sooner or later. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly. Chapter 2378. Yuan Kuang had been pampered since he was young and grew up in the palm of his hand. But that didn't mean he was stupid and brainless. The reason why he could be so lawless. It was precisely because he was the only son in the entire Yuan family. But now, he had lost his fertility. Which meant that the Yuan family had no more descendants. This meant that he was not a complete man at all. Yuan Kuang couldn't accept this. But the expression of the battle monarch. Yi Qing Luo's mocking expression. All of these proved that this was indeed a fact. Don't you like me very much? Now you don't even believe in my words. Yi Qing Luo's eyes curved as she smiled. You slut. Yuan Kuang's fat body kept trembling. He really liked Yi Qing Luo. But this kind of liking was not love. Now that he knew his future was ruined by Yi Qing Luo, there was only anger left in his heart. TSK. Yi Qing Luo clicked her tongue. Just a moment ago you said you liked me and the next moment you became a slut. Little prince's liking is really cheap. Yi Qing Luo brushed her hair over her shoulder. Unfortunately, I have no interest to accompany you here. After saying that, she raised her hand and waved at them with a smile. The next moment, Yi Qing Luo's figure had disappeared in front of their eyes. Slut. The battle monarch chased up a few steps. But at the moment when Yi Qing Luo's figure disappeared, her breath also disappeared. Yuan Kuang's mouth exploded with a roar of anger. Like a huge meatball, the fat was trembling. The powerful profound energy formed circles and circles of whirlpools in the surroundings. Yuan Kuang knelt on the ground on one knee. His fingers clenched into a fist, like a ball of meat, heavily smashed on the ground. Bang bang bang. In an instant, the ground was like a spider web, spreading in all directions. Gravel flew in all directions, sand and stones flew. The entire battle monarch's residence was in a state of intense shaking. Kuang, The battle monarch saw Yuan Kuang losing control and went forward worriedly, trying to stop him. However, the vortex created by the powerful dark force forced him to retreat. Qin Yu City's #1 prodigy. Yuan Kuang's talent was on the northern wave continent. He definitely lived up to his reputation. Yuan Kuang's eyes were ruthless. Bitch. I will make that bitch wish she was dead. After Yi Qing Luo left the Battle King's residence, she headed towards the 3000 Peach Blossom restaurant. Miao Rongrong had returned to the Hmong village. She was afraid that she would not be able to see Miao Rongrong in the near future. She did not have a map of the Miao village. Even if she had it, she would not dare to go to the Miao Stockade village. That was the territory of the Miao tribe. Hundreds and thousands of goo worms appeared every minute. She couldn't take it. However, she was not in a hurry. The bottle that Miao Rongrong snatched away only contained 10 pills. One was in her hand. Only 9 pills were left in the bottle. 1 a day. In less than 9 days, Miao Rongrong would personally come to find her. And the Miao tribe leader, for the sake of Miao Rongrong's sane disposition. For this bottle of pills, the Miao tribe's patriarch would have to pay the appropriate price. She just walked into the restaurant from the back door and headed to the basement. She saw Peach crossing her arms in front of her chest, looking at her with a teasing look. TSK. Smiling so sinisterly, what scheme are you thinking of again? Chapter 2379. Peach rolled her eyes at her. I'd be a fool to believe you. Yi Qing Luo giggled. Little Peach, where's the fangirl? How long has it been and you don't worship me anymore? Peach sized Yi Qing Luo up from head to toe and stroked her chin very seriously. It's better to look at a goddess from afar. Once you get close, all illusions will be shattered. Yi Qing Luo pretended to be a beauty, little Peach, my heart hurts. Peach took out a piece of yellowed paper from her arms and stuffed it to Yi-Ching Luo. Let me show you some news. After reading it, you can slowly feel the pain. Yi-Ching Luo took the paper and was about to look down. Suddenly she heard a loud crash coming from the main hall of the restaurant not far ahead. Immediately after, a loud bang was heard. A black shadow knocked over the door and window in front of it. The main hall and the backyard were separated by a row of extremely beautiful windows and doors. This collision caused the shadow to roll a few times heavily. The smile on Peach's face froze. Yi-Ching Luo also put away the paper in her hand and looked up at the person who was rolling on the ground and vomiting blood. It was a delicate-looking young man. He looked extremely thin and weak, as if he was underdeveloped. These few mouthfuls of blood spurted out. The young man's face was already pale, as if he would stop breathing at any time. Immediately after that, he saw a little girl in an emerald dress walking over arrogantly. Little trash, how dare you act so arrogantly in front of me, the leader of this group. Today I will let you see the gap between you, a lowly commoner, and me. The little girl waved the long whip in her hand, raised her head high arrogantly, and pointed at the young man arrogantly. The young man lay on the ground and looked up at the little girl approaching. His eyes were filled with the desire to survive. His body lying on the ground trembled slightly. He was not reconciled to die like this. But, he had no strength to resist. The little girl had already walked in front of the young man. The arrogant little face was full of pride and contempt. She raised her hand and the long whip fiercely swung towards the young man. Ah! A blood-curdling scream resounded through the entire restaurant. But, this scream was not from the young man's mouth. But, that girl. It was mealtime, and the main hall of the restaurant was almost full. The onlookers followed the sound and looked in the direction of the scream. He saw the girl lying on the ground in a sorry state. Her luxurious robe was stained with dust. The girl's meticulously dressed hair was also messed up when it fell to the ground. How dare you? How dare you attack the young princess? When the girl's guards saw that their master was actually sent flying, they immediately rushed forward and surrounded the girl. The girl looked in the direction of the voice. He saw a young girl in red clothes standing in front of him. In the girl's hand was a black leather whip. He looked valiant and heroic, and his aura was majestic. The girl's gaze was fixed on the girl in red's face. His eyes widened in that instant. You. It's you. The girl shouted. With the help of the guards, she stood up from the ground. It's you. The bitch who harmed Brother Kwang. This girl was not someone else. When Yi-Ching Luo and Yuan Kwang first met, she ran over to see Yuan Kwang make a fool of himself, but in fact she was concerned about him. Xia Ling Ling, young princess seems to be in a good mood. Don't you know the place to be domineering? Yi-Ching Luo's lips curled into a smile. Chapter 2380. She recalled that Yuan Kwang had been bedridden for the past few days. She recalled that she had been beaten up by Yi-Ching Luo and embarrassed herself in public. An obvious jealousy and hatred rose in his eyes. Arrogant and domineering? Xia Lingling placed her hands on her hips, raised her chin arrogantly and stared at Yi-Ching Luo, giving a cold snort. I am the most pampered little princess in the northern continent. I can teach you a lesson wherever I want. Who dares to object? Me. A light and melodious voice with a hint of laziness. Peach walked to the front of Xia Lingling, raised her hand to brush her long hair and looked at Xia Lingling with a smile. Xia Lingling's face sunk and stared at her angrily. Do you know who I am? You are just a lowly commoner and you dare to object? Do you believe that I will beat you to death? Peach tilted her head slightly, the smile on her lips did not diminish. Little princess, I am the boss of Peach Blossom Restaurant. You are making trouble in my restaurant. Am I not allowed to object? You are. Xia Lingling naturally knew that this Peach Blossom Restaurant was the territory of Peach Blossom 3000 mercenary group, so she specially came over to make trouble. She had not expected to meet the boss of Peach Blossom Restaurant today, which was the leader of Peach Blossom 3000 mercenary group, Tao Tao. This Tao Tao actually stood on the side of that slut. It was exactly as Sister Rong said, this Peach Blossom 3000 and that slut were in cahoots. The Battle King's mansion had searched the entire northern continent for such a long time but could not find any trace of that slut. It was the Peach Blossom 3000 mercenary group that helped that slut to cover up all traces. Miss Tao, Uncle June has always been on good terms with the Peach Blossom 3000 mercenary group. I do not wish to destroy the relationship between them and the royal family, so please pretend that you did not see what happened today. Xiao Lingling grew up in the palace, and to be able to reach her current position, she was naturally not a fool. She was very clear about the status of the Peach Blossom 3000 mercenary group. If it was because of a slut, it would cause the royal family and the Peach Blossom 3000 mercenary group to turn against each other. Uncle June would definitely blame her. Her target was only that slut. But unexpectedly, after Xiao Lingling mentioned the monarch June, the smile on the corner of Peach Blossom's lips did not change at all. Peach just looked at her with a smile, as if she was mocking her for overestimating herself. You. With the exception of Yuan Kuang, Xiao Lingling had never suffered such humiliation anywhere else. Especially this time, in front of so many people. If Tao Tao didn't give her face, her prestige as a monarch would be completely crushed into nothingness. Young princess, you sure have an air of grandeur. You caused trouble in my restaurant and humiliated my friend, yet you want me to pretend that I didn't see it? Tao Tao couldn't help but laugh out loud. He looked at Xiao Lingling as though she was an idiot. The little Canton princess is so unreasonable. Should I enter the palace and ask the emperor if he is right? Miss Tao. Xiao Lingling shouted Peach's name angrily. Are you determined to protect that bitch? Peach blinked her bright eyes, looking like a harmless little girl. She's my friend. Of course, I have to protect her. You guys are really in cahoots. Xiao Lingling was so angry that her whole body was trembling. She knew that it was definitely not a wise move to fight with Peach head-on. But how could she be willing to let that bitch go just like that? Chapter 2381. Peach shifted his gaze and looked at Yiqing Luo, as though asking for Yiqing Luo's opinion. Yiqing Luo took a look at that frail-looking young man as her pink lips rose slightly. Little Region Princess, this is the Peach Blossom Restaurant's customer. You've hit the Peach Blossom Restaurant's customer, and if we don't do anything about it, wouldn't it disappoint the other customers? Yiqing Luo walked slowly to the young man's side and half squatted down. Slender fingers placed on the young man's pulse. The young man was indeed malnourished and his body was especially weak. And after several rounds of bullying by Xiao Lingling, what's more, he was just hanging on to his last breath. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly, took out a pill from the profound phoenix ring and stuffed it into the young man's mouth. Yiqing Luo realized, how did she become a doctor after coming to the northern continent? All kinds of medicine to save people. Luckily before she came, she had stored various kinds of pills in the profound phoenix ring, in case of emergencies. That's a middle-grade pill? Yes. It's a middle-grade pill. It's used to replenish one's physical strength and nourish one's body. Among the crowd, when they saw Yiqing Luo took out the pill, they immediately cried out in shock. Middle-grade pill? Although middle-grade pills were more common. But under the scarcity of alchemists, and the success rate of alchemists refining pills was very low. A middle-grade pill, the price was at least 200 gold coins and above. If it was put up for auction, it was not impossible to sell it for 500 gold coins. Just like that, this young lady had fed a middle-grade pill to a complete stranger, an ordinary person. Wasn't she too rich and overbearing? Hearing the crowd's exclamation, Xiao Lingling's expression turned gloomier and gloomier. Yiqing Luo's action was obviously a slap on her face. She was blatantly telling her, this young man, she must protect him. Xiao Lingling's gaze was like a sharp sword, piercing fiercely on Yi Qing Luo. Slut, you are deliberately going against me. I'm just protecting the safety of the customers of the Peach Blossom restaurant. Yi Qing Luo smiled faintly. What kind of customer is he? He's just a lowly commoner, he probably can't even afford a meal in the Peach Blossom restaurant. Xiao Lingling was so angry that she stomped her feet. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose. The minute he enters the Peach Blossom restaurant's main door, he becomes our customer. This is the Peach Blossom restaurant's hospitality. You're clearly targeting me. Xiao Lingling growled through gritted teeth. I'm against you? Little Region Princess, on what basis do you think you deserve to be targeted by me? Yi Qing Luo snorted disdainfully as she swept her gaze over Xiao Lingling. That gaze was blatantly provoking her. Xiao Lingling glanced at Peach, who was standing beside her. Peach's attitude was obviously to let Yi Qing Luo settle and she would deal with the aftermath. In other words, no matter what Yi Qing Luo wanted to do, Peach would give her full support. If Xiao Lingling wanted to deal with Yi Qing Luo, she would be going against the 3,000 peach blossoms. Yi Qing Luo expressed that other than Xian, the feeling wasn't bad at all. There was only one word to describe it: awesome. Xiao Lingling's eyes reddened with anger as her pretty face contorted continuously. Yi Qing Luo gave a ridiculing smile. But Little Region Princess, what motive do you have to target such a frail and helpless young man? Xiao Lingling bit her lower lip as she suppressed her anger. It's this lowly commoner who harassed me, so I naturally have to teach him a lesson. Harassment? Yi Qing Luo lowered her head and saw the young man's evasive gaze. Chapter 2382. So get out of my way now. I will bring this lowly commoner back to my residence. Xiao Lingling's heart was filled with resentment, but she had no choice but to compromise. As long as they left the Peach Blossom restaurant, Tao Tao would have no excuse to interfere in this matter. The guards behind immediately walked over to bring that young man away. After the young man took the pill, his complexion looked better and he had regained his strength. He struggled to get up and hid behind Yi Qing Luo. He was very clear. Only this young lady could save him now. Otherwise, he would definitely die. When the guards went forward, Yi Qing Luo raised her hand and stopped them. What else do you want? Xiao Lingling gritted her teeth and roared angrily. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she took a step forward, shielding the young man behind her. No matter if he harassed you or not, since he's in the Peach Blossom restaurant, I must protect his safety. What's more, he had eaten a middle-grade medicinal pill of mine earlier. If I let you bring him away, wouldn't my medicinal pill be wasted? It's not like I asked you to feed him. Xiao Lingling was about to go crazy. She raised her head and tried hard to calm her emotions as she gritted her teeth. How much is that pill? I will give it to you. I have little Peach to raise. Why do I need money for? Yi Qing Luo said in a serious tone. Xiao Lingling's chest was heaving up and down as she pointed at Yi Qing Luo with trembling fingers. You slut, you are obviously intentionally making life difficult for me. She was infuriated to the extreme, causing her face to turn ferocious. I know it now. You must be eyeing Brother Kuang's power. You want to marry Brother Kuang and become his princess consort, which is why you've been picking on me. Yi Qing Luo's smiling expression froze instantly. Brother Kuang? Yuan Kuang? What the F***K? Young princess, not everyone is like you, such a hardcore taste. Yi Qing Luo shuddered. And Yi Qing Luo's expression change, in Xiao Lingling's eyes, meant that her thoughts were exposed and she had a guilty conscience. Xiao Lingling was so angry that her expression changed. Slut. I know you have bad intentions. The matter of you poisoning Brother Kuang is enough for Uncle Monarch to exterminate your entire clan. Even Miss Tao can't save you. Xiao Lingling's roar brought the spectators back to their senses. All of them stared at Yi Qing Luo. Yes, the woman that General Zhan Wang has been searching for these past few days is her. Hasn't General Zhan Wang been looking for this girl for almost 10 days? There was no news of her at all. Why did you come out on your own now? Haven't you heard? Just half an hour ago, the Battle King's mansion had already announced that the search for her had been cancelled. Revoked? No wonder she dared to appear in this restaurant. The sounds of the surrounding discussions entered Yiqing Luo's ears. Yiqing Luo raised her brows and glanced sideways at Peach. Cancel the search for me? What the hell? Didn't I show it to you just now? You didn't want to see it yourself. Peach shrugged. The piece of paper that Peach just gave her? Yiqing Luo immediately fished out that piece of paper and opened it. It was indeed the news released by the warlord's mansion not long ago. Cancel the announcement to search for the woman in the portrait. There was no explanation on the reason for searching for Yiqing Luo. There was no explanation on the reason for canceling the search for her. What was General Zhan Wang playing at? She couldn't be trusted. Battle King had no intention to pursue her, to avenge Yuan Kuang and the descendants of the Yuan family. Chapter 2383. I heard that the young prince called her his favorite concubine. Could it be that the young prince has fallen in love with her? Of course he does. Everyone in Qinghua City knows about the young prince's temper. Have you ever seen anyone who could appear in front of us unscathed after offending the young prince? The crowd nodded in agreement. The rumor about the woman that the King of War was searching for had spread all over the streets. Although the King of War had deliberately concealed it. More or less, they knew that this woman had humiliated Yuan Kuang in public and caused him to rest in the King of War's mansion for several days. Especially when Xia Lingling had just revealed the shocking news. Yuan Kuang had been poisoned by this woman. She had poisoned the young prince and made the King of War withdraw the arrest order. What was the background of this woman? The onlookers were both nervous and excited. They were worried that the King of War's mansion would be killed by the King of War because they knew the secret of the King of War's mansion. They were excited because they had personally seen this woman that even the King of War's mansion could not handle. You are all talking nonsense. How could Brother Kuang like this old woman? Xia Lingling stomped her feet angrily and her face was full of resentment. The more she listened to the praises of the people around her, the more she listened to the people around her matching that bitch with Brother Kuang. Xia Lingling could no longer suppress the anger in her heart. She could no longer suppress it. The anger that had accumulated in her chest was surging like a raging wave. Bitch! You have provoked my anger again and again. This princess will let you have a taste of this princess's prowess. Xia Lingling gritted her teeth and squeezed out a sentence. Then she stretched out her hand and a long black whip appeared in her palm. Enveloped by the profound light, the thin and long whip faintly flashed with a dark, cold light. From a certain angle, the onlookers could clearly see that the long whip was wrapped with a thin layer of sharp silver thorns. Although it was small, if it pierced into a person's body, it would definitely cut through the skin and make countless small bloody holes. What a cruel whip! Xia Lingling had actually taken out such a cruel whip. The onlookers all expressed their disdain for Xia Lingling in their hearts. However, no one dared to warn him or stop him. They hated the young prince of the War King's mansion. He also hated the little princess who was in cahoots with the little prince. These two devils were the nightmare of Qinghua City. It was rare for someone to show up and teach these two devil incarnates people a lesson. In their hearts, they were very excited. Due to the power of the devils incarnate, they did not dare to be too obvious. The long whip in Xia Lingling's hand had already lashed out towards Yiqing Luo's face. The sharp silver thorns were reflected in Yiqing Luo's pupils. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed slightly as her lips curled into a chilly arc. Is little Regent Princess desperate? Even your big brother Kuang was defeated by me. You want to show me what you're made of? Yiqing's charming eyes suddenly turned chilly. His entire body surged with a powerful dark light. Endless cold air, from the bottom of Yiqing Luo's feet, turned into a ball of white cold current, straight towards Xia Lingling. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, that white cold air flew over. Xia Lingling only felt an oppressive force that almost made her breathless, making her have no energy to wave the long whip in her hand. Her whole body stiffened. Chapter 2384. Bam! The cold current had already spread to Xia Lingling's feet. A bone-piercing chill made Xia Lingling's body tremble even more violently. In the next instant, a slap landed heavily on her face. The crisp sound of the slap resounded throughout the entire restaurant. Xia Lingling's body could not withstand the power of that slap. He was sent flying backward. Her face was burning with pain, as if there was a fire burning on it. From this, it could be seen exactly how heavy that slap was. However, that slap was so painful that half of Xia Lingling's face was swollen, but Yiqing Luo was unscathed. Because that slap was thrown directly on Xia Lingling's face by Yiqing Luo using profound qi. You slut! You hit me! Xia Lingling screamed as she pointed angrily at Yiqing Luo. Because her hissing voice affected the skin on her face. A burst of tearing burning pain made Xia Lingling scream in pain. Tears instantly flowed down Xia Lingling's face. Tears streamed down her face. This slut! She actually dared to hit her. She was the monarch. The most pampered little princess in the northern continent. Even Uncle Monarch couldn't bear to be fierce to her. But this slut took action and gave her a slap. Yiqing Luo wasn't the slightest bit annoyed or frightened because of her own actions. A faint smile appeared on that elegant face. This smile was very peaceful. Vaguely, there was a trace of ridicule. Her calm look made the onlookers silently give Yiqing Luo a thumbs up. This aura was simply too. Xia Lingling, who grew up in the palace and was pampered since young, was like a joke in front of Yiqing Luo. Little princess, didn't anyone teach you the principle of careless talk? Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up into a sweet smile. Little princess's status represents the northern continent's royal family. You keep calling me slut, it makes me doubt the quality of the people in the northern continent. The onlookers' faces sunk. Nirvana realm was divided into 4 parts. The 4 continents were competing with each other unknowingly. No one was willing to let people from other continents look down on their own continent. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, these northern tide continent's commoners instantly started to feel disgusted. But then he thought of what Xia Lingling had done. They really had no way of clearing Xia Lingling's name. Xia Lingling's face also turned pale. You are a slut. I didn't say anything wrong. The quality of the people of our northern wave continent is not something that a lowly commoner like you can control. Yiqing Luo tilted her head and moved her fingers. An invisible airflow slapped Xia Lingling on the other side of her face. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly. Little region princess, if you scold me, I'll give you a slap. Let's see if it's your scolding or my slap that's more enjoyable. Xia Lingling's face was swollen like a pig's head. The searing pain made it difficult for her to speak clearly. His face was sticky, but he didn't know if it was tears or saliva. He was in an extremely sorry state. Xia Lingling stammered, unable to speak clearly. Chapter 2385. Yiqing Luo's words really made the commoners in the North Continent feel as though their faces were on fire. Don't think that Yiqing Luo's words sounded polite. But every single word was ridiculing Xia Lingling's rudeness. But Xia Lingling totally didn't understand the importance of this matter. Instead, she wanted to give Yiqing Luo some big news which could belittle the North Continent. The spectators had already reached a stage of deep hatred towards Xia Lingling. Xia Lingling indeed didn't understand how much impact Yiqing Luo's words would have on the North Continent. She only understood it. Yiqing Luo was ridiculing her. Xia Lingling's mouth opened and closed as the muscles on her face twitched in pain as she whimpered miserably. She was so stunned that she couldn't shout out a single word. Yiqing Luo smiled as her expression was tranquil as she turned around unhurriedly and looked at the young man behind her. The young man hid behind her as he trembled. His face was filled with fear. Seeing Yi Qing Luo turning around to look at him, the young man immediately knelt down. "Thank you, miss, for saving my life." "Thank you, miss." His voice was filled with agitation and one could hear the choking in his voice. Yi Qing Luo shifted her body away and avoided the young man's kowtow. She bent down and helped the young man up. "You have quite a lot of injuries on you. Go over to Tao Zi's place first to treat your injuries." The young lady's warm hand gently touched the young man's hand. That warmth made the young man's eyes go into a trance. In his deep pupils, a green glow faintly flashed. It disappeared in a flash. Yi Qing Luo's eyes congealed as she looked deeply into the young man's eyes. The young man's eyes were pure and serene black. As though that green glow was just her misconception. It was in this daze that Yi Qing Luo saw the young man staring at her back in astonishment. Yi Qing Luo acutely sensed that a burst of murderous profound energy was swiftly attacking her from behind. Her expression sunk slightly as she was about to counterattack. But her arms suddenly tightened. The young man grabbed her wrist and pulled hard. The two of them exchanged positions. Yi Qing Luo saw a sinister-looking Xia Lingling holding a dagger in her hand as she swiftly stabbed towards the young man's back. "Little Region Lord." Just as Yi Qing Luo's expression was gloomy, releasing her profound energy. Suddenly, a clear voice came from the direction of the lobby. Then, they saw a man who looked about 18 or 19 years old rushing toward them. The man blocked Xia Lingling's attack and immediately grabbed her in his arms. "Big Brother Wei." When Xia Lingling saw the man who stopped her, she struggled to get out of his arms. "Let me go. I want to kill that bitch." The man frowned. He looked at Xia Lingling's swollen face and said, "Young princess, stop fooling around. You are no match for her." "How can this princess?" Xia Lingling cried out in dissatisfaction. Soon after, the pain caused her to suck in a breath of cold air. The man's frown deepened. After Xia Lingling saw the man's expression, she shut her mouth and silently shed tears of grievance. The appearance of this man caused the surrounding spectators to suck in a breath of cold air. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows and looked at the peach with interest. "Tisk, what's her background? Even the arrogant and despotic little region lord has succumbed to his prestige?" "Miao clan leader's collateral relative, second master Miao's son, Miao Zhengwei." The peach took a glance and recognized the man's identity. Chapter 2386. Peach's lively eyes sparkled with luster. "Yes, after all it is the Miao Gu family, even the current monarch has no choice but to fear them." Venomous spells. Those who didn't understand it would only think that it was a god. The royal family were naturally afraid of the Miao Gu family's mysteriousness and wanted to suppress it. Yi Qing Luo expressed that she pitied the royal family in the northern continent. On the left was the Battle Prince's residence. On the left was the Miao Gu family. On the right was the Miao Gu family. This monarch's position was filled with fear and trepidation every day. Miao Rongrong and Xia Lingling's relationship is not bad, and Miao Zhengwei has been secretly in love with Miao Rongrong for many years and often follows her around, so his relationship with Xia Lingling is not bad too. No wonder she was the leader of the Peach Blossom 3000 mercenary group. She knew all these gossip clearly. The Encyclopedia of Action. Yi Qing Luo expressed her approval. According to what I know, Xia Lingling and Miao Zhengwei entered the Peach Blossom 3000 restaurant and ordered a table of food. Peach's lips curled into a mysterious smile, hinting at something. Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes flashed a meaningful light. Miao Zhengwei came together with Xia Lingling. Xia Lingling was creating trouble, so Miao Zhengwei must be watching by the side. But Miao Zhengwei only made a move to stop Xia Lingling now. Yi Qing Luo clicked her tongue. This man called Miao Zhengwei wasn't as refined as he looked. He was a beast in human clothing. He was probably making use of Xia Lingling's arrogant personality to test her ability. After all, this Miao Zhengwei liked Miao Rongrong. Miss, young princess has been spoiled since young, please don't be calculative with her. Miao Jingwei was sure that Xia Lingling's emotions had stabilized before he released her and apologized to Yi Qing Luo. If it was any other lady, under Miao Jingwei's elegant and refined apology, she would definitely blush and shyly express that she didn't care. But, what has it got to do with me that she is spoiled? She is spoiled, so I deserve to be accused of being a slut? She is spoiled, so I have to smile and not be calculative after she tried to kill me? Do you think that everyone in the Nirvana realm are her parents? Yi Qing Luo directly bombarded him sentence by sentence in an imposing manner, oppressing Miao Jingwei so much that he was stunned for a moment before his face flushed red, but he had no way to refute. The phrase, Nirvana realm is all her parents, caused the surrounding spectators to burst into laughter. He had to admit it. Yi Qing Luo's sentence was simply too satisfying. When had Xia Lingling ever suffered such humiliation? Yi Qing Luo's words were ridiculed by the surrounding crowd. Xia Lingling almost fainted from anger. After a long while, Miao Jingwei reorganized his words and said, "What did young princess do to make you unhappy? I am willing to apologize on behalf of young princess." "No need." Yi Qing Luo sneered, "I'm not interested in your apology." Miao Jingwei's face darkened. Seeing Yi Qing Luo supporting that young man, walking towards the direction of Peach, she didn't even look at him. Miao Jingwei could not help but clench his fist. How was he inferior to that cripple? Whether it was her figure, appearance, strength, or family background, he was much stronger than that cripple. But, this slut actually treated that cripple as a treasure and disdained him. Miao Jingwei's pride had suffered a serious blow. Chapter 2387. Yi Qing Luo's best smile turned colder and colder. Her beautiful face seemed to be covered with a layer of unfathomable meaning. Miao Jingwei was swept by her eyes. He felt a chill down his spine. His entire body stiffened on the spot, unable to move. His heart tightened. The gaze he shot at Yi Qing Luo revealed a sliver of vigilance and probing. This young lady, who was she? Why did she have such a strong aura? Even he was subdued by the aura she released. Miao Jingwei's status in the Miao Stockade village wasn't considered high, but it wasn't low either. Other than the reason why he had been following Miao Rongrong, there was also his shrewdness. Miao Jingwei wasn't stupid. He naturally understood that this young lady from another continent, after knowing the identity of Little Lord Battle King, still dared to poison him. After knowing Little Region Lord's identity, she still dared to make a move without hesitation. This was absolutely not just a moment's pleasure. If it wasn't for the fact that she had a trump card, this young lady wouldn't dare to act so recklessly. Thinking in this way, Miao Jingwei's heart was more or less afraid of Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled upwards, as a smile bloomed on her lips, like a poppy, giving off a suffocating charm. What young Master Miao said is right, nothing can be said to be absolute. She smiled faintly, as she slowly lifted her feet and walked towards Miao Jingwei's direction. Miao Jingwei's legs started to tremble, as he wanted to retreat, but his entire body was stiff. Until Yi Qing Luo stood firmly in front of Miao Jingwei, 3 steps away, and stopped. That elegant face, quietly reflected in Miao Jingwei's pupils. She smiled slightly, in a calm and elegant manner. "Second young Master Miao had better teach this Little Region Lord of yours, not to bully others. Luckily, the person you met today is me. If it was someone else, I'm afraid that in less than an hour, your North Continent's customs would have spread to the other 3 continents." Beads of sweat rolled down Miao Jingwei's forehead, one by one. His eyes widened, as the veins on his forehead popped. But unfortunately, under Yi Qing Luo's gaze, he couldn't control his own body. Just like apart from his consciousness. Everything he had was under Yi Qing Luo's coercion, as he had no way to resist. "Brother Wei, what are you doing?" Xia Lingling glared at Miao Jingwei from behind. That slut was already forcing Big Brother Wei. Why was Big Brother Wei just standing there and staring at that slut? Could it be Brother Wei was also captivated by that slut? This thought made Xiao Lingling's anger surge. Her face flushed red as she pulled the long whip in her hand and flung it towards Yiqing Luo. Slut. Smelly vixen. Do you like to seduce men that much? You seduced Brother Quang, and now you're seducing Brother Wei. Xiao Lingling let out an angry roar. The muscles on his face felt like they were being torn apart. In her heart, she felt increasingly wronged and unwilling. At the same time, the xian qi on the long whip in her hand continued to rise. She wanted to sneak an attack on that bitch when she wasn't paying attention. However, how could Yiqing Luo not notice Xiao Lingling's actions? Just as Xiao Lingling waved her long whip, Yiqing Luo had already sensed it. Her eyes flickered slightly, as her pink lips curled into a teasing cold arc. Just as Xiao Lingling's long whip struck her back, a raging whirlwind suddenly burst forth from Yiqing Luo's body. Chapter 2388. Young Princess. Miao Jingwei regained his senses and found that he could finally move his body. He turned around abruptly and pounced towards the direction of the wave. Brother Wei. Xiao Lingling didn't expect Yiqing Luo to react so quickly. When he saw the raging waves coming towards him, he felt a chill down his spine. Xiao Lingling, who had never experienced such a dangerous battle, was completely stunned. Bam! Xiao Lingling felt her body lightened. Her whole body was pulled into a warm embrace. Following that, she fell heavily onto the ground. And there was a tall figure lying on top of her. Young Princess. The man's low and hoarse voice rang beside her ear with suppressed panting. Xiao Lingling blinked her eyes in a daze and stared at the person who was looking at her. Brother Wei. Xiao Lingling's heart was faintly filled with a strange feeling. Young Princess, are you all right? Miao Jingwei frowned slightly and his eyes were filled with pain. The sweat on his forehead, drop by drop, fell on her face. If it was any other time, Xiao Lingling would definitely wipe it off in disgust and reprimand Miao Jingwei for being disgusting. But at this moment, she actually felt. The sweat dripped onto her face. It was filled with a reassuring atmosphere. Just as Xiao Lingling's heart was beating wildly. Suddenly, she saw Miao Jingwei's clothes were gradually dyed red. Xiao Lingling was shocked. Brother Wei, you're hurt. It's all right. Miao Jingwei smiled weakly, as long as young princess is all right. Brother Wei. Xiao Lingling's eyes turned red instantly. Looking at Miao Jingwei lying on top of her, to prevent her from being crushed, he moved his body with difficulty. Somewhere in Xiao Lingling's heart, it was completely touched. She knew what it felt like to be touched. Previously on Yuan Kuang's body. She also had this kind of touch. A bunch of trash. Can't you see Brother Wei is injured? Why are you still standing there? Are you all dead? Xiao Lingling realized her own thoughts and immediately shouted angrily at the guards who were still in a daze. The guards then regained their senses. They immediately went forward and helped Miao Jingwei up. When Xiao Lingling got up, she saw a long bloodstain on Miao Jingwei's back. Blood soaked through his clothes. It was a streak of blood. It was the mark left behind by her whip. Xiao Lingling's heart tightened, and her tears almost fell. Big Brother Wei. Xiao Lingling wanted to touch him, but she was so frightened by the ghastly wound that she did not dare. Miao Jingwei smiled and said, I'm really fine. I'm relieved that the little princess is safe and sound. Xiao Lingling's heart ached, and she continued to ask about his well-being. Yiqing Luo and Peach smiled at each other, their eyes filled with ridicule. Only a silly little princess would believe Miao Jingwei's behavior. Furthermore, apparently, the young princess had fallen in love with Miao Jingwei. Could it be that she had unknowingly match-made a pair of lovers? Miao Jingwei furrowed his brows and gasped from time to time. It was as if he was enduring great pain. However, it was not that Miao Jingwei could not bear the whip wounds on his back. In the past, when he was cultivating the art of venom, he had suffered injuries that were much more painful than this. He naturally saw the change in Xiao Lingling's attitude towards him. In his heart, he was secretly laughing complacently. He rushed up to help Xiao Lingling to block Yi Qing Luo's counterattack. This was not because he valued Xiao Lingling very much. Or perhaps he wanted to protect Xiao Lingling. But Chapter 2389. There were so many spectators in the Peach Blossom restaurant. If he were to injure Xiao Lingling in front of him, the monarch who had always doted on Xiao Lingling would definitely blame him. Previously, Xiao Lingling was slapped twice by Yi Qing Luo. If he were to injure Xiao Lingling now, he would definitely die. But if he were to run over to save Xiao Lingling, at most, he would only be injured. And it would make Xiao Lingling feel grateful. With Xiao Lingling's gratitude, the monarch would also think highly of him. Now, not only did he gain Xiao Lingling's gratitude, he even gained Xiao Lingling's heart. This move of his was absolutely right. Miao Jingwei was feeling extremely complacent, but he pretended to be in pain. The small, soft hand that was holding him suddenly loosened its grip. He saw Xiao Lingling picking up the long whip and pointing it at Yi Qing Luo. Slut! I don't believe that you can overturn the heavens in the northern continent. I'm telling you, just based on the fact that you poisoned Brother Kuang, you struck out at me and even injured the Miao Miao's second young master. These crimes are enough for me to teach you a harsh lesson. Xiao Lingling was infuriated. The angrier she was, the clearer her mind was. Looking at Miao Jingwei's painful expression, her heart ached. She must make that slut pay the price for injuring Brother Wei. Little princess. Miao Jingwei instantly panicked. He had never expected that Xiao Lingling would actually make a move against Yi Qing Luo because of him. If Xiao Lingling was injured because of him, wouldn't the injuries on his body be in vain? No way. He couldn't let Xiao Lingling be rash. Miao Jingwei didn't dare to pretend to be seriously injured as he swiftly stood up from the ground and wanted to stop Xiao Lingling. Although his injury wasn't as serious as it looked. But the whip wound on his back was a real wound. This huge movement. It affected the whip wound on his back as it tore open fiercely. He cried out in pain as he half knelt on the ground in cold sweat, unable to straighten his body. And this scene made Xiao Lingling's heart ache even more as the hatred and anger towards Yi Qing Luo deepened. Xiao Lingling looked at Miao Jingwei sincerely. Big Brother Wei, I know you don't want me to get hurt, but I must take revenge for you. Saying that, Xiao Lingling whipped the long whip in her hand and charged towards Yi Qing Luo. Young princess. Miao Jingwei immediately called out to Xiao Lingling. However, as soon as he moved, he felt a sharp pain in his back. He couldn't stop it at all. Yi Qing Luo alluringly curled her lips as she tilted her head and looked at the fearless Xiao Lingling with a face of admiration. TSK TSK. Little Region Princess really has a fearless spirit, you say. Should I fulfill your fearlessness? Xiao Lingling's long whip was like a slithering viper. It opened its bloody mouth and charged toward Nie Tian. Yi Qing Luo was still smiling. His curved eyebrows were long and narrow. Just as Xiao Lingling's whip was about to land on that smiling face, the red-clothed girl's figure swayed. He appeared in front of Xiao Lingling. That whip hit empty air. The onlookers didn't realize when Yi Qing Luo had left her original spot and appeared in front of Xiao Lingling again. This speed was so fast that the naked eye couldn't see it at all. A figure suddenly appeared in front of her. Xiao Lingling shrieked in terror. She immediately retreated a few steps, trying to avoid it. But at the next moment, the young lady stretched out her fair hand and grabbed her collar. Chapter 2390. Yi Qing Luo smiled. Why, now you know how to be afraid. Xiao Lingling was so frightened that she started to tremble. She wanted to escape, but Yi Qing Luo grabbed her collar tightly. It wasn't tight at all. But Xiao Lingling felt that there was a suffocating feeling in her throat. Didn't you want to seek revenge for second young Master Miao? Yi Qing Luo's face leaned closer to her. Looking at Xiao Lingling's trembling and screaming face, Yi Zichen felt a chill run down his spine. She laughed softly. You're so afraid of me, how are you going to seek revenge for second young Master Miao? WH. Piak, before Xiao Lingling could say anything. A crisp slap landed on her face. Yi Qing Luo looked at her smilingly. Looks like, little region lord doesn't have a good memory. The burning pain made Xiao Lingling feel that half of her face had turned numb. Earlier it was already red and swollen from Yi Qing Luo's 2 consecutive slaps. This slap. It was an injury on top of injury, swelling on top of swelling. Xiao Lingling was in so much pain that she was filled with rage and grievance. Of course Xiao Lingling remembered. This slut said that if she scolded her once, she would hit her once. Yi Qing Luo's eyes drooped as she gazed at that unresigned, scared and furious face. The smile on her lips grew bigger bit by bit. As for me, I like the way you can't stand me, but can't get rid of me. You. Xiao Lingling was flustered and exasperated as she roared angrily, you slut vixen. You're a slut. Slut. Xiao Lingling was totally in a hopeless situation. She didn't believe that Yi Qing Luo would really dare to kill her. That was a series of curses. Yi Qing Luo's smile became even more radiant. Her brows arched as she stared at Xiao Lingling's blinking eyes. Her 5 fingers suddenly tightened. Xiao Lingling's face turned pale as her voice stopped abruptly. Her neck was tightly clutched by Yi Qing Luo. That slender fingers tightened one by one. It became tighter and tighter. Xiao Lingling struggled as she gradually lost her strength. Her body went limp as it hung in that slender palm. Young princess. Miao Jingwei cried out loudly as he looked at Yi Qing Luo in astonishment. She is the current monarch's most doted little princess. If you really kill her, you won't be able to live either. Yi Qing Luo glanced at him smilingly. Really? Even if you're from another continent. However, since he killed the little princess of the Northern Wave continent, even if the sovereign chased him to the other continents, it would still be a matter of course. Miao Jingwei advised loudly. Furthermore, you killed a member of the royal family in public. Not only will you die, but even your family will be buried with you. Do you really want to show off? Miao Jingwei had not expected Yi Qing Luo to really take action, to strangle Xiao Lingling to death. Oh. Yi Qing Luo responded indifferently, as though she didn't mind it at all. She retracted her gaze and stared at Xiao Lingling, who no longer had the strength to resist, in her palm. What you said seems very interesting. Even I am a little eager to try. The onlookers. Did this girl's brain have to be so elegant and refined? Miao Jingwei. Being deflated for a moment, he couldn't think of any words to stop her. Yi Qing Luo lowered her brows. Then, I'll kill her now and see how exciting it is to kill a member of the royal family. Saying that, her 5 fingers, slightly tightened. Stop. Suddenly, a voice filled with anger was heard from the direction of the main hall. Immediately following that, Yi Qing Luo felt a burst of powerful profound energy, pressing towards her face. Yi Qing Luo originally only wanted to scare Xiao Lingling. Chapter 2391. The moment Xiao Lingling was thrown out, the dark force was retracted. Yi Qing Luo's gaze calmly looked towards the direction where the profound energy came from. She saw a woman dressed in a hibiscus brocade dress. She had one arm around Xiao Lingling's shoulder and was whispering something to her. The woman's hair was combed in an extremely complicated way. There were a few extremely magnificent and luxurious gold and silver hairpins in her hair, as well as a dangling butterfly hairpin. It made the woman look even more beautiful. When he saw the man's face clearly, Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laugh. As the saying goes, enemies don't meet unless they're enemies. It was too much of a coincidence. Who would have thought that he would still be able to meet this fellow in the northern Billow continent? He could be considered as an old acquaintance whom he had met a few times. That woman was none other than a stranger. She was the one whom Yi Qing Luo had met previously when she was establishing the World Mercenary Group. Blue Dragon Mercenary Group leader's little lover, Lan Ling Nuo. She was the princess of the East Wave continent who was narcissistic to the extreme. The last time they met was during the Southern Continent's Academy Exchange Conference. Last time, he was focused on dealing with the conspiracy of the dark forces. Throwing Lan Ling Nuo and Ji Tsang Tian to one side. She did not pay attention to it. Who would have thought that she would actually be able to return alive from the flame lair? TSK, Yi Qing Luo's gaze swept across the surroundings. But she didn't see Lan Ling Nuo's loyal Ji Tsang Tian who loved her to the bone. Instead, the person standing behind her was a 23 or 24-year-old man with an imposing appearance. Yi Qing Luo only took a glance at that man. She knew that the dark force that had stopped her from pinching Xia Lingling was released by this man. Lin Ling, what happened? Lan Ling Nuo wrapped her arms around Xia Lingling's shoulders. When she saw that Xia Lingling's delicate and pretty face had turned red and swollen like a pig's head, she furrowed her brows as if she was feeling indignant on Xia Lingling's behalf. However, in Lan Ling Nuo's heart, she was secretly laughing at Xia Lingling's current appearance. Xia Lingling was the most pampered little princess of the Northern Waves continent. She, Lan Ling Nuo, was the most pampered princess of the East Wave continent and also the #1 beauty of the East Wave continent. On the surface, she seemed to be on good terms with Xia Lingling. But in reality, there was still a little bit of competition between them. After all, the two of them had similar statuses and ages. There would always be people who would compare the two of them. In Lan Ling Nuo's heart, Xia Lingling could be considered a very pretty girl. Moreover, he was younger than her and had the playfulness and cuteness of a girl. Now that Lan Ling Nuo saw Xia Lingling in such a sorry state and was as ugly as a pig's head, Lan Ling Nuo felt an indescribable joy in her heart. Xia Lingling's heart was filled with fear and hatred towards Yi Qing Luo, totally not knowing Lan Ling Nuo's true thoughts. She saw her old friend had saved her. Xia Lingling felt aggrieved and finally had a place to vent. She cried out with a "wah" and threw herself into Lan Ling Nuo's arms. His face that was swollen like a pig's head was covered with snot and tears again. Lan Ling Nuo resisted the urge to push Xia Lingling away. She pretended to be gentle and said, "Lingling, don't cry. This time, when I came to North Wave Continent, I specially brought along Uncle Jun's guard, Yu Ji. He is the strongest person in East Wave Continent." When Xia Lingling heard this, she immediately raised her head and looked at Lan Ling Nuo with hope in her eyes. Chapter 2392. Saying that, Xia Lingling raised her chin. "She just strangled my neck. Get your guards to strangle her neck and torture her viciously." Lan Ling Nuo looked down. Indeed, she saw a circle of red finger marks on Xia Lingling's neck. Lan Ling Nuo looked towards the direction of Xia Lingling's finger. When her gaze was fixed on Yi Qing Luo, the glint in her eyes flickered for a moment. But, after seeing Yi Qing Luo's unfamiliar face, Lan Ling Nuo then regained her senses as the expression on her face revealed some awkwardness and flustered. Lan Ling Nuo clenched her fists tightly as she suppressed the indescribable uneasiness in her chest. Just now, in that instant, when her gaze landed on the figure of the girl in the red dress, she actually felt that that young lady looked exactly like her nightmare, Yi Qing Luo. The same red dress like fire. The same figure. The same aura. But that face was unfamiliar. It must be an illusion. She had suffered too much pain in Yi Qing Luo's nightmare. So when she saw the young lady dressed in red, she felt that she looked like Yi Qing Luo. The young lady in front of her looked so ordinary. How could it be Yi Qing Luo, that slut? After brainwashing himself for a while, Lan Ling Nuo's heart, which had been beating restlessly, finally had some peace. Lan Ling Nuo's gaze towards Yi Qing Luo flashed with a trace of murderous intent. Just because this young lady, like Yi Qing Luo, that slut, liked to wear a fiery long dress. She also wanted this young lady to disappear from this world. Lan Ling Nuo pretended to feel heartache as she hugged Xiao Lingling's shoulders tightly. Her expression sunk as she looked at the man beside her. Yu Ji, catch that slut who hurt little region princess. When that man heard that, his brows creased slightly, as though he was slightly displeased. But, after seeing Lan Ling Nuo's urging gaze, he still unwillingly took a step forward. Yu Ji's expression was indifferent as his brows were filled with arrogance. He lightly swept a glance towards Yi Qing Luo's direction as he spoke impatiently. Follow me obediently, or do you want to suffer? TSK. So confident? Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as she gazed at Yu Ji with a smile which didn't look like a smile. The gloomy luster in her eyes flickered incessantly. Yu Ji. Mystery? For some reason, it reminded her of the netherworld she had met in the 21st century, as well as Yu Han and Yu Nu. They were all surnamed Yu. It was a coincidence. Or, this Yu Ji was in cahoots with those people. It seems like you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. I hope you can still be so courageous in the future. Yu Ji sneered. His words had just ended when his figure was like a tiger, locking onto Yi Qing Luo's direction at lightning speed. The onlookers might not be able to tell, but Yi Qing Luo saw it clearly. When the gloomy silence came, an extremely strange aura suddenly surged around him. The black mist-like aura wrapped around secluded silence bit by bit, forming circles and circles of vortexes. In an instant, it was right in front of Yi Qing Luo. What a strange aura. It looked similar to the mysterious Yin energy. But, this was definitely not a power from the dark forces. It was even more terrifying than the power of the dark forces. Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly as her heart trembled slightly. Just as that aura was about to close in, Yi Qing Luo's slender hand flipped. A burst of raging airwave was released from her palm. Bam bam bam, two bursts of energy instantly collided together. Chapter 2393. After the energy collided, the surrounding air seemed to have solidified. Yi Qing Luo and Yu Ji both took a few steps back at the same time. After Yu Ji steadied himself, his expression congealed as a glint of astonishment flashed past his eyes. He frowned as he examined Yi Qing Luo. You, who exactly are you? Naturally an ordinary person. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she smiled sweetly, but this East Continent's guard seems to be very surprised that I can take on your attack. Don't tell me, you think that no one in Nirvana realm can take on your attack? The expression on Yu Ji's face turned stiff. The arrogance in his eyes gradually turned gloomy. Although Yi Qing Luo was smiling on the surface. However, her heart gradually sank a little. What she said just now was just to test Yu Ji. This Yu Ji was indeed not an ordinary person. He indeed thought so. No one in the entire Nirvana realm could take on his attack. This wasn't just his one-sided self-confidence. But, he could be sure of his own power in Nirvana realm. There was a possibility that this Yu Ji was really Yu Han, Yu Nu, and the like, the same group of people. Then, what was Yu Ji's motive for appearing here? Could it be? It was for her again? Because she came to North Continent? Qing Luo, you know that person? Peach unknowingly walked to her side as she looked at Yu Ji without blinking. Yi Qing Luo regained her senses as she hid the deep thoughts in her eyes. No. That person. I actually don't have any information about him in my mind. Peach's tone was astonished. It can be said that I can remember all the people with some ability and status in this Nirvana realm clearly. This person can fight evenly with you. It's impossible that I don't have any information about him. But in fact, she indeed didn't have any information about Yu Ji. Even the name Yuji was unfamiliar to her. Hearing Peach's words, Yiqing Luo was now completely sure that Yuji was not someone from the lower realm. He and Xiao Wu are from the same place. Dispel the idea of investigating him, Yiqing Luo said solemnly. She pulled Peaches behind her. After ascertaining that Yuji was someone from another world outside the Nirvana realm, Yiqing Luo became increasingly vigilant towards him. Peach was stunned. Sure enough, she didn't dare to be interested in Yuji anymore. If he was not someone from the Nirvana realm, then it was better not to investigate him. If he were to investigate like this, he would lose his life. That would not be worth it. Yuji, what are you still standing there for? Kill her now. Kill her. Lan Ling Noa saw Yuji still standing at the original spot, staring at Yiqing Luo in a daze as she instantly panicked. Yuji's face darkened as he glanced at her coldly. Lan Ling Noa was so frightened that she immediately shut up. Yuji retracted his vision and with a scrutinizing gaze, he sized up Yiqing Luo from head to toe. It's rare for me to see an opponent who can match up to me, young lady. Let me see how your ability is. The corner of Yuji's lips curled up into a cold smile as he suddenly released his profound strength. The surging profound chi instantly formed a vortex. Like raging waves, it bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it pressed down on Yiqing Luo. This wave of attacks. Compared to before, he was clearly much stronger. Apparently, he was serious about it. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly. This time round, she didn't choose to rush up to face it head on. Instead, she swiftly flipped her hand as she struck out a palm wind. Borrowing the force of the dark force that was coming towards him, he felt a chill run down his spine. Her body spun violently. Chapter 2394. Bam! The palm strike landed. At the place where Yiqing Luo was standing earlier, the ground exploded, blasting out a huge deep pit. Stones flew in all directions, and the entire backyard had already turned into a mess. Whereas Yiqing Luo flipped over and leaped onto the roof. Immediately she borrowed the force and landed behind Yuji. Her line of sight lightly swept past that deep pit. Between her brows was a sheet of coldness. Yuji's appearance made Yiqing Luo raise her guard. Whether it was because she felt too good about herself, that Yuji's motive was for her. Or perhaps Yuji had other motives. It was better to be safe than sorry. She couldn't let Yuji see through her identity. Because of that, she would try her best to avoid fighting with Yuji. Her motive in the northern continent was to bring Miao Rongrong away, to let Miao Rongrong help Long Yunzhan to suppress the goo poison. She didn't want to complicate matters, delaying her time. But Yuji obviously did it on purpose to arouse her fighting spirit. To arouse her to fight with him. After this wave of attack was avoided by Yiqing Luo again, Yuji followed closely and launched another attack. Both sides were entangled. One person pressed forward step by step. The other kept on dodging. The battle between the top experts made the surrounding spectators dumbstruck. They didn't even dare to make any sound of breathing, in case they disturbed the two who were fighting. After 10 over moves, Yuji was already impatient. Young lady, hiding like a stray dog, what kind of hero is that? Yiqing Luo stood steadily, her long and narrow eyes outlined as she smiled lightly. I'm not a hero. Yuji's expression was gloomy, staring at Yiqing Luo's elegant face. He suddenly opened his mouth. You're intentionally not fighting with me, trying to hide your true profound grade? Yiqing Luo raised her brows, smiling calmly. Oh, if you want to think so, you can think so. Yuji suddenly narrowed his eyes, pulled out a long sword from his waist, and slashed horizontally. The long sword was emitting a strange black chi. Casually waving it, Yiqing Luo was able to clearly feel that berserk energy assaulting her. How terrifying was it? The strange black aura quickly spread in the air. Like a surging tide, it swept over. Yi Qing Luo's legs turned stiff, and under that pressure, she was unable to move her body. Qing Luo. Peach, who was behind her, sensed Yi Qing Luo's abnormality, and her expression changed drastically. Peach's specialty was to conceal her identity and investigate all kinds of secrets. In terms of combat, he could only barely protect himself. Peach wanted to pounce forward and block this attack for Yi Qing Luo. However, her speed could not match up to that profound energy attack at all. In the time it took for a breath, that powerful force had already covered the sky and the earth and pressed down directly. Just at this moment, a figure suddenly stood in front of Yi Qing Luo. The man raised a hand. His slender fingers spread open slightly. In his palm, a white light was faintly discernible. When Yu Ji's horizontal slash of sword chi collided with that person's palm, all of the profound energy in the surroundings suddenly started to distort. Round after round, it gradually disappeared into that person's palm. The gale gradually subsided. The surging roars gradually subsided. Everything quietened down. Heavens! Heavens, so handsome, so handsome. She actually blocked that person's attack with her bare hands. Chapter 2395. The surrounding crowd all stared blankly at the man who suddenly appeared. Yi Qing Luo also regained her senses at this moment. The stiff feeling of being unable to move and the oppressive feeling of his body finally disappeared. Her long curly lashes trembled slightly. Her gaze shifted upwards. She saw a tall man standing in front of her. His back was facing her. His broad back was straight and taut, like a bamboo in the wind, blocking her behind his back. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. She had yet to ponder over the current situation. The man standing in front of her turned around. Yi Qing Luo took a step back. Raising her head, she met with a pair of glass-like, jet-black eyes. This was an extremely handsome face, and between his brows, there was an air of refined elegance. Although he was cultured and refined, but the man's imposing manner was extremely noble and awe-inspiring. "Miss, are you all right?" The man opened his mouth, and his voice was like flowing water, extremely pleasant to the ears. Yi Qing Luo was stunned for a moment as she slowly shook her head. The man's thin lips curled upwards as his smile was like a spring breeze. His gentleness seemed as though it was emitted from his bones. It was like a clear spring, able to cleanse one's heart. "Brother Gu?" Suddenly, Lan Ling Nua's joyful voice was heard from behind. Following that, a pungent fragrance assaulted her nostrils. Yi Qing Luo took a few steps back as she didn't conceal her disgust as she covered her nose. Lan Ling Nua's heart was placed on the man as she totally didn't care about Yi Qing Luo's reaction. Lan Ling Nua was like a butterfly as she pounced into the man's arms. "Brother Gu, you're actually here too. If I knew that South Waves Continent sent you over, would have gone over to South Waves Continent to be together with you." The man gave a warm smile as he raised his hand and caressed Lan Ling Nua's hair. "We haven't seen each other for 2 years, and Ling Nua has already grown into a young lady, and you've become even prettier." Lan Ling Nua's eyes widened in joy as she put on a bashful look as she lowered her eyelids. "Brother Gu, Nua misses you so much." Looking at Lan Ling Nua's bashful look, it was filled with the desire to seduce a man. Yi Qing Luo silently lit a candle for Ji Tsang Tian in her heart. Xiao Lingling, who was by the side, heard Lan Ling Nua's voice and immediately went up. "Brother Gu? Brother Gu is here." Xiao Lingling's tears rolled down her cheeks once again when she saw that warm smile. "Lingling has also grown up." The man paused. "Lingling, what happened to your face?" This question made Xiao Lingling feel aggrieved. She put her head next to the man's arm and cried out her grievances. While the man was being pincered by Xiao Lingling and Lan Ling Nua, Yi Qing Luo had already retreated to Peach's side, distancing herself from those few people by a few steps. Peach regained her senses from the fright just now. Her quick-witted eyes looked at Yi Qing Luo anxiously. He grabbed Yiqing Luo's hand and asked in a low voice, "Are you hurt?" "Nothing." Yiqing Luo smiled faintly. "Who is that person?" "South Below Continent's Wind Valley Sect's young sect master, Gu Jingyu." Peach glanced at the man, lowered her voice, and briefly explained his information. Then he said, "East Below Continent's monarch, Lan Ling Nua, has always had a soft spot for young sect master Gu. Have special feelings for him?" Then Ji Tsang Tian. Yiqing Luo silently lit a candle for Ji Tsang Tian once again. For Lan Ling Nua, Ji Tsang Tian could be said to be deserted by everyone. In the end, Lan Ling Nua merely treated Ji Tsang Tian as a spare tire. Chapter 2396. Why are all the famous people from the various continents heading to the northern continent? Yiqing Luo asked in puzzlement. Peach was stunned, her beautiful eyes widened. You don't know? What do I need to know?" Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes in a daze. She had been in the northern continent for at least half a month. Had she missed any news? Northern Continent Qinghua sect sovereign's 50th birthday is 10 days later. Peach held her forehead and shook her head helplessly. "This news has spread like wildfire in the entire northern continent. I thought you would know even if I didn't say it." Birthday? Yiqing Luo wondered if it was too much of a coincidence. The moment she arrived in the northern continent, it wasn't the sovereign's birthday. It was the Miao tribe's holy maiden selection. Did it need to be so lively? Hearing the second half of Peach's sentence, Yiqing Luo shook her head decisively. "The entire northern continent is buzzing with news. I only know one thing. War Monarch is searching for me in the entire continent. They are all here to pay their respects to the sovereign, and also to find out the current development situation of the northern continent." Peach's vision shot towards the direction of the main hall. "Nowadays, there are many people from various external forces in Qinghua City. Just like what happened between Young Region Lord and East Lan Region Lord, it will soon spread to their continent." Yiqing Luo's pupils suddenly widened, which means, this face of mine, this identity, has once again become famous in the Nirvana realm? You can say that. Peach nodded with a certain look. Yiqing Luo. Should she consider changing her face again? Peach suddenly bumped her arm and said with a mysterious smile, "Speaking of which, young Lord Gu has a very good reputation in the Nirvana realm. He is graceful, gentle and refined, and treats people sincerely. Anyone who sees him will have a good impression of him. He just saved you, and he even used such a cool and handsome appearance to save you. Don't you feel the slightest bit of affection?" Yiqing Luo's face turned white. "Do you think, no matter how handsome he is, can he be more handsome than Xian?" Peach remained silent and shook her head. "No." "Then that's it." Yiqing Luo expressed that after looking at Xian for a long time, other men, no matter how they looked, were all trash. Only Xian. It was just a faint smile. They could make her feel refreshed to the bone. But, even if he isn't moved, he probably won't hate it either. It's hard to hate someone like that. Peach's finger pointed at Yiqing Luo's slender brows. "As long as you see young matriarch Gu, over here, it will wrinkle into a ball." Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders. Indeed, Gu Jingyu had a noble and gentle temperament like that of a prince from head to toe. No one could hate him. This was where his charm lay. However, for some reason, Yiqing Luo somehow felt that something was amiss. Perhaps she was really used to Xian's charm. As for other men, no matter what type they were, she was completely immune. In her eyes, other men were nothing more than two eyes, a nose, and a mouth. There was no difference. The two of them were talking. Suddenly, a clear and deep voice sounded in her ears. "Miss, I apologize on behalf of Princess Ling Nua for her rudeness just now. I hope that miss will not bother with her." Yiqing Luo turned around immediately. She saw Gu Jingyu looking at her with a faint and warm smile. His face was full of sincerity. Chapter 2397. Gu Jingyu gazed at the young lady in front of him. He could feel that the young lady didn't like him. He was a little surprised. It could be said that until now, although not everyone who had seen him would like him and get close to him for no reason. But at least, they would absolutely not have any disgusted feelings towards him. Even in the Gu Feng sect, the few brothers who were fighting for power had not ignited the flames of war on him. He was extremely confident in his own charisma. This was the first time he felt an unpleasant emotion from a young lady. Yi Qing Luo looked at him in the eye. After a long time, her eyes revealed a mocking gaze. Looks like Mr. is very keen on being a hero to save the damsel in distress. Gu Jingyu was stunned and was suddenly enlightened. A glint of light flashed across his gentle eyes. His thin lips rose. Miss Observation is really meticulous. He had not expected that this young lady could actually tell that he didn't have any genuine feelings towards Lan Ling Nua or Xia Ling Ling. And he really didn't want to have too much involvement with them. But the two of them were the princess of the two continents. He couldn't spoil the relationship between the two continents. Yi Qing Luo's words was also reminding him. If he really didn't want to have too much involvement with the two of them, then don't self-righteously apologize for the two of them. Otherwise, the two of them might think that he lowered his head and apologized to her because of them. Which would only make Lan Ling Nua even more entangled. Of course, Yi Qing Luo wasn't reminding Gu Jingyu out of kindness. If Gu Jingyu didn't understand the meaning of her words. Or perhaps Gu Jingyu actually liked to make use of the young lady's affection towards him to achieve his motive. Yi Qing Luo wouldn't bother about it. The two of them called me brother, so I naturally apologize to you as their brother. Gu Jingyu's eyes were like gurgling warm water, seeping into one's heart bit by bit. He glanced sideways at Lan Ling Nua and Xia Ling Ling beside him and spoke in a warm voice, Miss, after all it's soon Qinghua Sect's sovereign's 50th birthday. Perhaps you have nothing to fear if you make a move here, but later on, your friend's painstaking establishment here will definitely be affected. He glanced meaningfully at the direction of Peach. Yi Qing Luo's smile stiffened slightly. She had to admit. Gu Jingyu had poked her soft spot. Indeed. After all, Lan Ling Nua was here to attend the 50th birthday of the Qinghua sect master. Xia Lingling was the little princess of the Northern Wave continent after all. She was fearless. However, the restaurants that Peach had painstakingly established in the Northern Wave continent, as well as the informants that she had sent out to gather information, would all be affected. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows rose as she nodded lightly. That's true, many thanks for Master's reminder. Then, will Master please let the two princess make up for today's loss to the Peach Blossom restaurant and I will be merciful enough to forgive you. Hey! You, bitch! Hearing this, Xia Lingling roared in anger. Just as he opened his mouth, he met with Yi Qing Luo's expression which seemed like a smile yet not a smile. Xia Lingling immediately felt a chill down her spine as she thought of the slap she had given her. He forced the insulting words back into his throat. What right do you have to ask us for compensation? This is clearly your... Me? Yi Qing Luo interrupted Xia Lingling's words with a smile. If it wasn't for little Regent Princess creating trouble for no reason at the Peach Blossom restaurant, bullying the commoners and smashing through the main hall and backyard's doors, if it wasn't for little Regent Princess seeking justice for little Prince, insulting me over and over again, if it wasn't for little Regent Princess dragging East Lawn Princess to make a move on me. Chapter 2398. Xia Lingling was so choked by these questions that she couldn't say a word for a long time. Lan Ling Nua's expression darkened, and she was about to speak. Gu Jingyu's gentle gaze swept over her. This young lady is right. The two of you do have to shoulder this responsibility. Don't let others laugh at you. Even Gu Jingyu said so. Lan Ling Nua did not dare to retort. The two of them looked at each other, feeling wronged. Soon after, they pursed their lips and weakly replied, "We understand." Gu Jingyu's eyes revealed a look of admiration. He nodded at the two of them and said, "It is the greatest virtue to know your mistakes and correct them. Don't be willful in the future." He was praised by Gu Jingyu. The displeasure in Lan Ling Nua's heart was instantly swept away. Xia Lingling was displeased. However, he was pulled by Lan Ling Nua and he could not defeat that slut, so he could only suppress the fury in his heart and walk to Miao Jingwei's side, who was being simply bandaged by the guards. Miao Jingwei was initially ignored. The light that had just saved Xia Lingling was taken away by Gu Jingyu. He was furious. He saw Xia Lingling walking towards him. He immediately adjusted the expression on his face, "Little commandery princess. Big brother Wei." Xia Lingling saw Miao Jingwei's doting expression and couldn't help but feel wronged. She hugged Miao Jingwei's arm. Miao Jingwei sighed as if he was distressed. Xia Lingling buried her head in his shoulder and whispered, "Big brother Wei, don't worry. I definitely won't let this go. That bitch dared to injure you, I will definitely avenge you. Since we've come to an agreement, I'd like to ask the troublemakers to scram as far away as possible. Don't affect the restaurant's business." Yiqing Luo waved her hand immodestly and turned towards that young man. "Let's go, sister will bring you to apply the medicine." The young man looked around in fear. Yiqing Luo's hand had already grabbed onto his wrist. The young man was startled. A green light flashed in his eyes. Those tiny hands. It was extremely warm and soft. It actually made him feel, inexplicably at ease, and he wanted to trust her. This was a feeling he had never felt before. Yiqing Luo had just pulled the young man a few steps. A man's deep and gentle voice immediately came from behind her. "Miss, I am the South Below Continent's Wind Valley Sect's young sect master Gu Jingyu. Can Miss tell me your name?" Yiqing Luo halted her footsteps and lightly spat out two words, "Yi Luo." "Yi Luo." Gu Jingyu murmured these two words as a warm smile appeared on his face. "Miss Yi, it's nice to meet you." That smile was indeed as gentle as the wind. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled upwards as she smiled faintly and nodded her head. "Yes, I'm very happy." Saying that, Yiqing Luo had already pulled the young man and turned a corner, leaving the crowd's line of sight. Peach retracted her gaze and shifted it to Gu Jingyu. Gu Jingyu was staring at Yiqing Luo's departing back view without blinking, as his eyes were in a trance, not knowing what he was thinking about. "Young Master Gu, my Luo has already left. Why are you still staring at him? Could it be?" Taozi looked at Gu Jingyu with a teasing smile. Gu Jingyu's gaze drifted away as two bundles of red appeared on his face. "Miss Tao has misunderstood, I'm just..." "Just what?" Taozi's brows rose as her smile became even more ambiguous. Gu Jingyu explained with some anxiety, "I'm just admiring a lady like Miss Yi. If I can become close friends with such a lady, it would definitely be very interesting." Chapter 2399. Gu Jingyu felt uneasy from Peach's laughter. His gentle brows flashed past a sliver of awkwardness and unnaturalness. His long lashes fluttered rapidly. This made one couldn't bear to tease him like this. Taozi put away her playful smile and glanced at the two princesses behind him, whose faces were full of bitterness and hatred. "Young Master Gu, you'd better send these two princesses back to the palace first." Gu Jingyu looked at the direction where Yiqing Luo had left as his thin lips moved, as though he wanted to say something. Lan Ling Nua, who was behind him, had already pursed her lips tightly as she spoke in an unhappy coquettish voice. "Brother Gu, let's go. Second young Master Miao's injuries cannot wait any longer." Lan Ling Nua had always been good at observing men's expressions, guessing what the man was thinking about. She naturally could tell. Gu Jingyu was probably interested in that lady called Yi Luo. That was not just so-called admiration. Moreover, quite a number of admirers started from admiration. She had liked Gu Jingyu for so many years. And for Gu Jingyu, she had rejected so many outstanding men who were devoted to her. She absolutely could not let Gu Jingyu fall in love with anyone other than her. She wanted to strangle Gu Jingyu's admiration towards Yi Luo in the cradle. On the other side, Yi Qing Luo led the young man back to the basement which she had been staying in for the past few days. This was Peach Blossom 3000's secret base in Northern Continent. From the moment the young man entered the basement, that pair of bright eyes unconsciously widened as he looked left and right in disbelief. It was as though this basement, to him, was extremely novel. After passing through several layers of mechanisms, Yi Qing Luo led him to a bedroom door and stopped. She knocked on the room door. A slight noise was heard from inside the room and very quickly someone came over to open the door. The person in the room was Miao Yi. On seeing Yi Qing Luo, her quick-witted eyes lit up. "Sister Luo, you're back." Miao Yi's words had just ended. Her body was pushed away violently. A black figure suddenly scuttled into Yi Qing Luo's arms. A furry little head rubbed against Yi Qing Luo's arms. "Sister, Kitty missed you so much." Yi Qing Luo rubbed Kitty Li's little head. "Let this girl stay in the bedroom and wait for me." It was really hard on her, an active kitten. Miao Yi was pushed by Kitty Li and fell to the side. "Be careful." The youth behind him immediately reached out to support him. Both of them fell to the ground. Fortunately, neither of them were injured. Kitty Li realized that she had caused trouble. She scratched her head and stuck out her tongue at the two of them guiltily. Little brother, I'm sorry. I didn't, miss." Suddenly, the young man shouted in shock, interrupting Kitty Li's apology. The young man's hands were placed on Miao Yi's shoulders. His eyes were wide open, and his entire body was tensed up due to his agitation. His eyes were filled with shock and joy. Miao Yi was stunned at first, but when she saw the youth's face, her expression froze for a moment. "Miss, why are you here?" "I've been looking for you." The young man chattered excitedly. However, the look in Miao Yi's eyes forced him to stop speaking. Yi Qing Luo took a panoramic view of their expressions. She raised her brows slightly, as she thoughtfully swept a glance at the both of them. "You two know each other?" Furthermore, their relationship was apparently extraordinary. Chapter 2400. Looking at Miao Yi's flustered expression, Yi Qing Luo raised her brows as her gaze wandered back and forth between her and the young man with interest. This blatant gaze, it made Miao Yi's hair stand on end. She lowered her eyelids as her gaze avoided Yi Qing Luo's eyes. The young man also stood up at this moment. A pair of bright eyes stared at Miao Yi without blinking. Kitty Li also laid quietly beside Yi Qing Luo as she looked at the both of them in puzzlement. The scene became awkward bit by bit. After some time, Yi Qing Luo retracted her gaze as she walked into the bedroom. "Kitty Li, take out the first aid box. He's injured and needs some treatment." Kitty Li responded and skipped over to the side to take the first aid box. When the two of them heard that, they heaved a sigh of relief. Miao Yi looked at Yi Qing Luo's back as her eyes flashed with a trace of struggle. But in the end, she still shut her eyes tightly. The two hands hanging by her side clenched into fists. It was until Kitty Li brought the first aid box over when Miao Yi stretched out her hand and took the first aid box. "Let me do it." Miao Yi took the first aid box as she walked towards the young man. "Sit over there." The young man opened his mouth but eventually didn't say anything. He remained silent as he walked to the chair which Miao Yi pointed at and sat down. He allowed Miao Yi to tear his clothes. The injuries on the young man were mostly superficial wounds. And there were quite a number of blood stains. After seeing those scars, Miao Yi's fingers trembled slightly. "Who injured you?" Miao Yi pursed her lips as she carefully and gently wiped the young man's wounds. If one listened carefully, one could even hear the slight tremble in Miao Yi's tone. "No one, it's me." The young man frowned slightly in pain, but he was afraid that Miao Yi would be worried, so he didn't make a sound. "Miao Zhengwei, Xiao Lingling." Yi Qing Luo calmly spat out 2 names. I've returned half of his injuries to the 2 of them. The remaining half, you can get it yourselves. Miao Yi's hand paused slightly. Her eyes drooped downwards. Her fine long hair covered half of her face. Indistinctly, one could see her reddened eyes. Thank you, Miao Yi said after a long time. Yi Qing Luo smiled and stretched out her hand towards Kitty Li. Kitty Li, let's go, sister will bring you out to shop. Kitty Li's eyes lit up and she pounced over. Can we really go shopping? The Battle King's mansion has already withdrawn their search for me, so we can openly wander around. Yi Qing Luo hugged Kitty Li and brought her out of the room. That, Miao Yi suddenly spoke in a low voice. Yi Qing Luo's footsteps halted slightly. Miao Yi's eyes reddened as she looked at the young man's wounds. She looked down and a tear rolled down from the corner of her eye. She said again, thank you. Take good care of him. Yi Qing Luo smiled sweetly. Yi Qing Luo knew that Miao Yi's first sentence of thank you was to thank her for saving this young man and avenging him. As for the second thank you, he was thanking her for not forcing her to reveal her relationship with the young man. Sister. Yi Luo. The young man's slightly hoarse voice called out Yi Qing Luo's name. He raised his head and there was a faint green glow in his bright and clear eyes. He said sincerely, Sister Yi Luo, my name is Xian Gui, I will definitely repay sister. Yi Qing Luo gave the both of them a brilliant and gentle smile, I'll wait for you. Saying that, she pulled Kitty Li out of the bedroom. Chapter 2401. Kitty Li, who had been locked up for a few days, was finally able to walk on the streets openly. Kitty Li was extremely excited. Carrying the tiny Shiju, she scurried left and right. Looking at Kitty Li's lively figure, Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a faint smile. This was the vigor that a young lady should have. The surrounding people, because of the search by the Battle Prince's mansion, they were extremely curious about Yi Qing Luo. Seeing Yi Qing Luo walking on the streets, the commoners started to point fingers. But no one dared to step forward and disturb this mysterious lady, who made the Battle Prince's mansion search and withdraw the search. She circled around Qinghua City for about half a round. Kitty Li was still excitedly wandering in front of every stall. Yi Qing Luo followed behind, strolling leisurely. Suddenly, her ears moved slightly, a trace of a meaningful smile flashed past her brows. Her peripheral vision seemed to inadvertently sweep behind her. Then she saw a few people in 2s and 3s, intentionally or unintentionally following behind her. The smile on her pink lips became thicker. The other party looked like they couldn't hold it in. Not sure if they were from the Battle Prince's mansion or the Miao tribe. Yi Qing Luo pretended not to discover that she was being followed. She slowly walked to Kitty Li's side, rubbed her little head. Tired? Not tired. Kitty Li's body was already hung with a few toys, and her hands were holding several snacks. Even little Shiju, who was lying on Kitty Li's shoulder, was holding a candied haw with both claws, licking it vigorously. These two beasts looked like they hadn't sensed that someone was following them. Even if you're not tired, you can't play anymore, come again tomorrow. Yi Qing Luo said softly. Kitty Li's bright eyes dimmed slightly. She pouted her lips, lowered her head unhappily. Kitty Li still wants to continue shopping. It's getting late. If Xiao Wu comes back and finds that we're not around, she will definitely be worried about us. Yi Qing Luo hooked Kitty Li's shoulder. There's still some trouble to settle. Kitty Li blinked her round beautiful eyes. Suddenly hearing the latter half of Yi Qing Luo's sentence, her eyes widened in sudden realization. Soon after, she angrily clenched her little paws and muttered, a bunch of idiots. How dare they disturb big sister's shopping with Kitty? Kitty will scratch them to death. The two of them left the bustling street one after another. During this period of time, Yi Qing Luo had been cooped up in the basement of Peach Blossom Restaurant. He wasn't very clear about the route to Qinghua City. to draw out their stalker. He had to find a quiet place. Furthermore, if they were in Chinua City, once he made a move, he would probably alert the enemy. He wanted to find out from these people who were following him which side they were from. He couldn't do anything in Chinua City. Yi Ching Luo brought the kitten along with her. On the surface, she appeared to be calm and collected as they discussed the little girl's topics with each other. He walked towards a secluded and quiet place. After walking for about half an hour, the two of them had already walked out of Joy City. After leaving Joy City, they walked for another half an hour. In front of them was a small path in the forest. As far as the eye could see, it was densely packed with messy bamboos and various kinds of trees. Yi Ching Luo and Kitty Li looked at each other and stepped into the forest. The moment they stepped into the forest, Yi Ching Luo felt a strong murderous intent spreading throughout the entire forest. It looked like those people following them couldn't wait any longer. As expected, the next moment, more than 10 black figures surrounded them from all directions. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.